Youth organisations in Hartlepool.
Well, the one that all of us would remember who grew up in the 30s and were adolescents in the 40s would be Christian Endeavour.
Yes, Haseltine.
Yeah. I mean, without any doubt at all, it was the premier youth organisation, and incredibly, the size of the room when we met would have been no bigger than this one in which we're sitting. And we used to cram in there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and always on Thursdays, if I recall, there was a religious service first, but we still used to go. And we were restricted in time, and of course it was the blackout. But Christian Endeavour was a great organisation, and it kept lots of us youngsters sane during the war, I guess.
When did that fold up then?
It petered out, I guess. I've got photographs certainly into the 50s, and I suppose Miss Godlin herself began to get older, and there becomes the age gap between older people and youngsters. And I guess it would have gone on into the 50s, but I think not after that.
Is there a youth club now?
Oh yes, I mean the John O'Gord runs a very successful youth centre, and of course there are the youth organisations, Scouts also, because
yes,
I was a Scout pre-war, and Margaret was a guide. Guides and Scouts were very active, and we had a tremendous Scout troop during the war, and we went on to be Air Scouts because one needed aircraft recognition. And I could still spot any aircraft, be it American, British or German, which was of that vintage, and almost tell you exactly what the specification of the jolly thing was. And we used to keep enormous logs of every aircraft that flew over the town. And there was hundreds then. I mean, you may think I'm exaggerating, but I do not. I mean, because the amount of aircraft in the sky over Hungerford was, you could not imagine now how many there might be. But I mean, they were flying off Membry, you see, immediately before D-Day, continuously doing circuits and bumps and dropping paratroopers, practicing, taking gliders up and dropping them off and going, picking more gliders up and dropping them off. It was continuous. And we were surrounded by aerodromes. I mean, Ramsbury, Membry, Welford, Greenham Common. They were all active aerodromes. And they were all, apart from Greenham, I mean, they were within 5 miles of Hungerford.
Yes. And of course you've got the enemy aircraft coming over, I suppose.
Yes, I mean, sighting of enemy aircraft was, well, I was actually in Newbury the day, first of all we were machine gunned in the morning because I was at the grammar school at the time. It was on sports day, and that was an incredible thing to remember. And then we had just left all the Hungerford people we always caught, and then there were dozens of Hungerford children going off to the grammar school, because there was the whole of the period from 11 until you were 17 or so. So there would be some dozens going. And we had just left at 4:10 when that lone German raider came and dropped the bombs right across Newbury, which demolished the school at the top of the station. And amazingly, my aunt at Chiltern actually accommodated a teacher called Miss Spender, who taught at the one and only school in Chiltern Poet, and she'd gone home because she felt unwell, and she was at home in Newbury, and she was killed by a bomb, and it was an incredible coincidence, because normally she lived in Chiltern Poet all the week and went home on Fridays, and she'd gone home midweek because she was unwell and was killed, and no one knew what had happened to her for ages. She just did never come back, you see, and it was a long time before it emerged that she was killed by a bomb.
But there were no bombs actually in Hungerford?
Only at Home Farm and at Froxfield. That's the closest that I ever remember. But the crater at Home Farm, which is only about a mile and a half to the east, is still there. I can take you and show it to you. And the ones at Froxfield fell into marshy ground and have lost as far as I know.
Where the sport, of course, local sport took up a lot of interest.
Took up a lot of my time.
What sports clubs are there?
Well, I mean, where they are now, in my remembrance, but of course, you would need to go back if you want to talk football. A chappie called Son of North, who is still alive and is 93, would be an authority on Hungerford football going back for years and years and years, because he remembers the Hungerford Swifts playing down on the Bath Road. Certainly the Hungerford Rugby Club, as it was then, played down in Smithbridge Lane. In Marsh Lane, I'm sorry.
That doesn't exist anymore.
Oh no. The field's still there, but of course the rugby club now play upon the common. But my remembrance really is of Bulpit Lane and the football ground there, and immediately adjacent to that, the cricket ground. And And of course the marvellous thing was that the cricket pavilion was the old waiting room from Savernake Station.
Oh.
And because my father was secretary of the cricket club when it was started again after the war in 1948, just as I came out of the Navy in fact, and when we cleaned out that old cricket pavilion, it was unbelievable the amount of debris in there. And I know you to be a respectable lady, but the Americans had been using it for their amorous activities for years, and in consequence there was a great deal of the debris of that sort of thing left in the cricket pavilion. And it all had to be cleaned out. And it had the wavy line, the old GWR wavy line edge for the old station waiting room, which was used as the cricket pavilion. And then the cricket pavilion, of course, was a couple of glider boxes. Gliders came over in huge boxes during the war on ships, and they were actually jolly useful for conversion into things like cricket pavilions. And that was our cricket pavilion until it burnt down in a fire in the 60s. In fact, I rescued the photograph, which was being trampled underfoot and was damaged by smoke at the time that I was skipper up there in 1955, which I've actually got in my office still in the back.
That was the days of make do and mend and use everything.
Absolutely.
Which you never do.
No, no.